to it.
Hey, John, what do you make of all this all this RedditGate with Will Levis yesterday? Is it still Bryce Young at number one?
Of course, I don't put anything into it. I can't imagine that the Vegas odds makers, which are usually accurate, would fall for something like that. And you like to think they have other information besides an anonymous post that causes them to change those odds the way they did. But maybe they don't. And I don't think, for instance, Bryce Young is going to drop into the Texans' lap like, millions from heaven.
John,
falls right to Nick Caserio.
Yeah, if there's one thing I've learned about the futures market just from talking to gambling pros and whatnot, it's like it's not like the normal gambling market on games, which is kind of an efficient market. So like little small bets and movements can change the line a lot in the futures market. So the thing that makes the most sense was that a lot of people just decided to try to jump on this little bit of info, and that moved the line. So it's it feels pretty nonsensical. In terms of nonsense, John, Sean and I were talking about this. Has this been the most I guess either fruitful or the worst year that you can remember in terms of like unnamed quotes, anonymous sources, all of this? It feels like every day an article is coming out with these anonymous GMs dishing on these guys.
Yeah, of course. And that it seems to be more this year than it's ever been. I don't know why, unless it's because the quarterbacks give more attention. I never like anonymous quotes. The Houston Chronicle wouldn't let us use anonymous quotes if you're going to be ripping somebody. If you didn't have the footballs to put your name on it, we didn't use it. Now, you can quote sources in news stories, but I always liked that because it couldn't be questioned. And but everybody else I know does it, but I don't put a lot of stock into it. And I've been reading so many different things and watching and listening. And I've decided, I woke up this morning and more people are taking Tyree Wilson. I've decided I cannot see Nick Caserio having his choice of 4 quarterbacks and not drafting one with a second overall pick. I just don't see it. He's got to have a quarterback. He knows it. He can get an edge rusher for sure at 12. He can get a receiver, and with 33, he can trade. He can do whatever he wants. But I can't imagine Caserio and DeMeco Ryans would pass up this opportunity to have their choice of all but one. If they don't like any of them, fine, take another position. But I've got to think that somewhere in that crowd of the second 4, they're going to like one of those prospects. And once the selection is made and fans boo like crazy, then Caserio will be talking tomorrow night. DeMeco will be talking Friday. And what they'll say is, hey, that's the decision we made. They've spent hours with these guys in Houston at the combine. They've watched every throw in practice tape. They've watched every throw in game tape. None of the rest of us have. I certainly haven't. And so once they make the pick and everybody boos, then our people are going to get behind it. That's just the way it usually goes. And the guy will make it or he won't. But I'm switching Sean to a quarterback.
John's already obsoleted our mock draft from yesterday.
Oh, really? Oh, man, yeah. So you don't have your official final one yet, though, John?
No, I'm working on that now. It's going to be posted today, and I'm going with a quarterback, and I don't have a clue whether it could be Anthony Richardson. I'm getting, there's so much about the Texans soured on Stroud for whatever reason. Maybe that's not true, so I think I'm going to have him going with Levis because the odds are Levis is going to be the second player picked, whether they take him or they trade the pick to someone else.
What's more likely in your mind? If the Texans trade out of number 2 and it's to somebody within the division, would it be to the Colts or the Titans? Which is the more likely scenario?
Well, they get more from the Titans, but they don't need more. They got plenty. They got 12 picks. They don't want a lot of rookies.
Yeah.
Now, I think they would trade back up, trade into the second round, maybe back into the first round. That's always a possibility when you got a lot of picks. But I think if it's within the division, it would be for the Colts, and then the Colts would move up and take a quarterback, and the Texans better hope and pray that quarterback doesn't burn them twice a year for the next 10 years.
I wouldn't mind. Like you make a really good point about the Texans in any kind of a trade. Like if anything, this year they have too many draft picks.
Mm-hmm.
Like they got to consolidate some of these. It's hard to have that many rookies on the same squad and give them all the attention that they need to develop. But man, when I start thinking about like, toss a Derrick Henry into the deal as a sweetener, like things like that. And, Nick loves his, 1 and 2 year potential free agent signings. So that would be like, okay, look.
That'd be fun.
Look, his legs might fall off after the second year of this deal. We don't care.
That'd be fun.
Oh, that'd be a lot of fun.
John McClain joining us for his weekly visit. So, John, then if it's quarterback at 2, how do you handicap 12 at this point?
I think it's going to be an edge rusher. And there'll be Smith from Georgia, Van Ness from Iowa, Murphy from Clemson. Those guys should all be available at that point. I've got Bijan Robinson, like you and I did in our mock draft, going to Atlanta. I'm trying to put Arthur Smith was there for all those years of Derrick Henry, and he knows what a great running back can do. And his rookie, Tyler Algiers, can't catch a cold. And the versatility they would have with him. And we, meaning the people who watch the Texans, have seen Derrick Henry damage teams, especially the Texans, big time catching the ball. And so he just seems like a natural fit. So I'm looking at teams that would not take an edge rusher. Philadelphia might. They need a defensive lineman. They also need a safety. Those safeties worth taking at that point. But you got to figure Will Anderson Jr., Tyree Wilson, those guys are in a class by themselves. They'd come off the board first. But I do not see him taking a quarterback and a wide receiver in the first round, because I think there's so much value for wide receivers beginning when they pick in the second round.
John, this is a sense I get, or this is the suspicion I have about the way teams think about Bryce Young and the things that people are saying, including the anonymous sources. I think that there is a large yet silent group of people in the NFL who don't want to be labeled a dinosaur by worrying too much about Bryce Young's size, but deep down inside, they're petrified about how small Bryce Young is.
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
I've talked to 2 former head coaches, 3 former offensive coordinators. A couple of them were quarterback coaches, and they're guys who watch tape. And they say every time Bryce Young goes on the field, you're going to worry about his size, not from throwing the ball. And it's not necessarily from one big hit, because he's done a good job at Alabama from avoiding that. But you worry about the wear and tear. You look at like Tua Tagovailoa. He's stocky and he's taller, and his head hits the ground wrong. He's trying to learn how to fall and keep it from happening again. And so that's just what you buy into when you get Bryce Young. And they say he's in a class by himself when it comes to the mental stuff, the diagnosis, the adjustments, the way he adjusts on the fly, the way he figures things out when he's at the line of scrimmage and after the ball is snapped, the way things are transpiring. And there's guys that got better arms, there's guys that run better, harder. But, man, there's not anybody that handles a game mentally like he does.
John, it sounds like there's a decent chance. I would say there's a good chance that at least 2 of the AFC South teams have rookie quarterbacks coming from this first round, if not all 3, not named Jacksonville. Let's pretend that happens for a second. Texans take a quarterback, and the Colts and the Titans both end up with a rookie quarterback. Does Jacksonville, what does that do to the division? What does the division look like next year if it's Trevor Lawrence and the Jags versus 3 other rookie quarterbacks? Could the Jags win 12 games next year, do you think? 12 or 13 games if they're playing in a division that has 3 rookie quarterbacks and crossing over playing the NFC South, which is a bad division as well?
They could. As we all know, most rookie quarterbacks struggle. If the Titans drafted Hendon Hooker, he wouldn't be playing. Ryan Tannehill would play. And you got to think the Titans, because of their defense and Derrick Henry, would have a chance to split. But the Texans and the Colts could get swept. And what you were talking about, they're playing a first-place schedule, though, but playing the other division, which is awful. if you put the over under 11, I wouldn't take the over because they are the Jaguars, and we've seen them stumble and fall too many times right when we thought, man, they're on the verge of success.
Yeah, and I guess just for first place schedule's sake, I'm just doing the math. That means that whereas the Texans are playing like the Jets and the Broncos from those other divisions, the Jags are playing the Chiefs and the Bills from those other divisions because those are the other division winners. And I think the crossover game, that 17th game, that means they've got to play the 49ers. So that's tricky. You're right. That's a tough. Those are tough variable games for the Jags, no doubt.
That'd be a great game with the 49ers because of the coaches, DeMeco, especially an offensive coordinator, Bobby Slowick. But what if they trade for Trey Lance? That'll make that game even juicier.
No, I'm saying the Jags play the 49ers.
Oh, the Jags.
Yeah, the Jags play the Niners.
Yeah, I hadn't paid any attention. I'll tell you something. For everybody that's getting all excited about the Jets going to the Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers, they play the AFC West and they play the NFC East. And it's not as if their division's going to be a cakewalk. They're going to have one heck of a schedule.
Yep.
That's all right. Aaron Rodgers seems like he's in for the battle and the struggle long term. Yeah, as long as he can go to a darkness retreat and get his face mudded every now and then, he'll probably be just good. Yeah,
he'll be fine.
It'll sweat lodge at the facility.
Yep.
Ian Rappaport the other day on the Pat McAfee show just came out and just flat out said, "Listen, I'm not hearing anything out of Houston, and like they are not leaking anything," which I thought was a really actually like a pretty subtle and yet bulging flex by Ian Rappaport, because the implication would be like, hey, I'm everything else I'm telling you is gold because I actually hear from
these guys are all a bunch of clowns.
Yeah. But also, like, whenever you hear a report from me, like, it's because I've got this. So this is a rare situation where I'm not hearing anything from the Texans.
Yes.
But I do wonder, like, I guess the other implication is, man, are NFL offices, front offices in general, just like way more leaky affairs than they used to be? That Rappaport would kind of single out the Texans as the one place he's not hearing anything out of?
I think it's because, and I hear the national guys complain that the Texans won't tell them stuff. And I'm like, good. The local guys don't want them telling you stuff. And I kind of thought that Caserio would make sure it got leaked by somebody that they were going to take a quarterback. So if they wanted to trade down, a team would trade with them. Instead of it getting out, they're going to take an edge rusher, even though that may not be true. I've never known the Texans to be as secretive and be able to keep a lid on it like they've done right now. I long for the old days where Charlie Casserly called me the day before my last mock and say, "Who do you have us going?" Well, I'm taking Charles Rogers. Take Andre Johnson. I said, well, what if Detroit takes Andre Johnson? They're not. Have us take Andre Johnson. And one time, we're taking Travis Johnson. I said, who? Travis Johnson from Florida State. Really? Okay. Well, I was too stupid to switch because I thought that they were somebody else they were pinned for. And boy, I blew that one because, of course, they took Travis first round in 2005. Those days are long over.
Oh, yeah.
Like Casserly should have been insulted by that. Like, I gotta give you this gold.
Yeah.
And you just spit in my face,
did.
McClain.
He did.
And I
He
blew
did.
it.
That's great. John, you and I are going to be recording a mailbag episode of Utopia today, HO Utopia, for those wanting to download it. And we look forward to all of your draft coverage over the next few days. Should be a fun and interesting next few days for Texan fans. SportsRadio610.com senior Texans columnist, as well as GallerySports.com. John McClain joining us. John, we always appreciate the time. I'll talk to you later this morning.
Guys, thank you very much. I appreciate it as always.
All right, thanks. Good stuff. John McClain joining us.